And blessed to be with you, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Joining us now, Lieutenant Governor Janice McGeachin. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's so nice to be with you this morning, Kevin. I appreciate the opportunity to be on your show and listen to the concerns of your audience.
You want to hear from people.
I do, and so I would encourage people to call in and ask questions of what's on your mind.
Wow. All right. I think you're the first politician that we've had that have ever just actually openly solicited phone calls. You've got me flustered already. The phone number here is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We've got a lot to discuss. First off, for you culturally, how different is it from being going from being in the legislature, from being a conservative, from being out there to now being a part of the executive branch? Culturally, what's that like for you, ma'am?
Well, actually, for myself personally, it's just a natural extension of who I am as an accomplished businesswoman. I have had the 10 years of experience under my belt, understanding policy, understanding the workings of state government, and then after stepping away from that, after 10 years and honoring the vote of the people on term limits, because I don't believe in making a career out of politics. I think we all should stand forward and serve in however that may look, and then go back to what we do, and that's what I am. I'm an entrepreneur, a small business owner, like to create jobs, and so bringing the experience I've had in my life now to the executive branch of government is a natural extension for me, and I think it's really important to have people in those positions who truly understand how government may interfere with our personal and our business lives.
Sure, but I can remember, when you were a state representative, you were out there in a good way, fighting the fight, sometimes by yourself, and I thought that must have felt very lonely. So if you could go back, and now here you are, the lieutenant governor, winning an ultra-competitive race. You're, number 2 in the state. That's quite an accomplishment, going from, hey, this is an issue that I care about, and having to go through committee people and this and that, and people trying to marginalize you. This is a great victory, your election.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. It really is all about staying true to and convicted to your principles, and when those principles align with the majority of the people of Idaho, then it's a blessing to be able to represent that and stand true to those principles. After serving 10 years, and you're right, there were times that were really tough for me because of leadership pressure and pressure from the special interests to conform. But by standing true to the principle, I was able to go home with my integrity, even though my husband teases me. He says, we had to figure out, because when I went back home to Idaho Falls, we opened the first Irish pub and grill in downtown Idaho Falls, and he teases me. He says, well, we had to figure out something for her to get her integrity back after being in politics 10 years.
No, I remember we would have you on from Idaho Falls, and it was a lonely crusade that has obviously paid off for you. And again, seeing you now as lieutenant governor, just brings back all those memories of, when you were in the legislature, when I was new to the state. So we'll go to the phones, and we'll go to Hank in Boise on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Hank. You're on with Lieutenant Governor Janice McGeachin.
Thank you. Good morning. My question to Janice McGeachin is this. Because the governor's made a statement that Idaho should consider climate change, and that maybe the state should get in the business of regulating carbon dioxide emissions. Do you agree with his stance? Personally, I think that they would do a better job doing it for the typical liberal solution to regulate the radiation from the sun, which would make about as much sense.
Well, Hank, thank you for your call and for your question. And I was reading his comments, and I would take that, if we're all experiencing these devastating wildfires in California and in our state of Idaho, and if you say that, yes, these fires are contributing to raising the temperature of the earth, well, what we should do is do a better job as the state to help manage those lands and those forests through logging and restoration projects to remove that dead wood that causes and allows for those devastating wildfires. So I do think that we have some opportunities in our state to lead to help fight some of those problems that we have, like these massive wildfires.
Hank, anything else?
Well, I think that the governor would do better to go back and restudy his history. When temperature climates were warmer, for instance, when Caesar landed in Britain in 1555, he landed 3 miles inland. The water tables were higher because the climate was warmer then. Same thing with William the Conqueror in 1066. His landing place is 6 miles inland now. Water temperatures prior to the Little Ice Age. So my point on all this is this. Climate change happens all the time. It's a continuous process. And to have a government to do this with inadequate research when everything suggests that we have radiation that is not constant all the time, there's variations in it, is probably the single factor. And this is an excuse for more government. And I think that the governor needs to do a little more homework on the subject.
Well, we appreciate that, Hank. Thank you for the call. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. So your relationship with Governor Little, obviously very new. You've known him from your time in the legislature. You've seen him on the trail. How does that work?
I've since the primary election and being a part of the Republican team, I felt like we all had a very good working relationship with each other, helping to support each other as the Republican candidates, working together. I had a number of volunteers on my campaign that were assisting with Governor Little's campaign. And so that was a good experience. We were able to get to know each other better and it's all about building trust and rapport with each other. And so that was a really good experience. And when we did the Republican bus tour across the state, we were able to reach out and meet people all over the state, all 44 counties, 3,000 miles. And so also what I am seeing now that I'm in this position, is a good working relationship where we met the other day, and he asked me to help in some areas that are right up my alley, and that is working to help state government be more efficient, operate better, help to reduce the power of the bureaucrats and unelected people through their rule promulgation and just how they run their agencies. So I'm really happy to be able to help out in that regard and some other capacities, and I look forward to helping the people of Idaho.
One more touchy-feely question for you here on KIDO Talk Radio. The governor's ball, the inaugural ball, all that, you're there with your family, you're walking in the big procession. What was that like for you as a person?
It was an amazing amazing experience, and I think that our National Guard did such a great job of not just the ball, but the inauguration events on Friday, the pageantry and the celebration. It's for the people of Idaho. It's wonderful to see so many people come out and participate in those events that are meaningful to them. And so it was a real honor, and it was great to be there with my family, my husband Jimmy and our 2 kids, Liza and James. It was a great experience, and shaking hands with people. It was awesome.
No, watching the coverage of that, I wondered because we've known you for years. You've been on the trail, and anybody who has run or covered elections, especially those people that have run, because it's the ultimate form of rejection or acceptance, and it's not just the candidate; it's the family, it's people that volunteer. That instead of hanging out, they're at gun shows or parades, and they're there for you. It's a group thing. So that's why I wondered what went on in your mind.
Well, and that's, we've actually begun as a member of the Republican Party. Now we celebrate Lincoln's birthday in the month of February, and we're beginning the Lincoln circuit again. This last weekend I had 4 Lincoln events, and I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to get back out onto the road again and reach out and thank those thousands and thousands of people from across the state that did just like what you said, help out on parades or sign posting. And I couldn't have gotten to where I'm at today without the help of so many wonderful people of Idaho. So really, it's a celebration for those who helped to get me to where I'm at today.
580-5436, 580-KIDO. Lieutenant Governor Janice McGeachin joining us. If you have a question, certainly, obviously, the one that we would like to ask is the grocery tax repeal.
Oh, let's talk about that. In our conversations with Governor Little and really carefully studying the budget, where we're at, it truly is a priority to him to provide that grocery tax relief this year. And I'm really happy about that. It's a priority of the legislature for the last 2-3 years. And so to hear our governor be completely committed to that, I'm happy about that, because that's the number one priority with that. If there's going to be some excess revenues, which there will be, but it may not be where we would like them to be, the first place it's going to go is to the tax relief.
You believe that'll happen this session?
He's committed to it, absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Now it's a matter of working with the members of the legislature, because as we all know, the agencies come forward with their wish list, the governor has his wish list, and then the members of the legislature also have their wish list. And so now it's just a matter of that solidarity with Republican leadership. I'll say legislative leadership. It's not just Republicans. I know that members of the minority party also would like to see some grocery tax.
But they're irrelevant. That's me speaking. Let's go to the phones here at KIDO Talk Radio. Ron in Caldwell, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio. Lieutenant Governor Janice McGeachin. Good morning, Ron. Hello,
Hey,
Ron.
Governor. I was just curious if anything is going to be presented by you or the governor to the legislation concerning public transportation, and I'll listen to your answer off air, ma'am. Thank you.
All right, public transportation, very big here in the Treasure Valley, obviously, because we have a lot of traffic and a lot of congestion. Your thoughts?
Yes, thank you for that question, Ron. And that is an example of some of these the wish list items that may conflict with this desire to provide grocery tax relief, because as the revenues come in above the projection, there's a thing that the legislature put in place a couple years ago called the surplus eliminator, and it's written into the law that above a certain level of revenues, a percentage of that must go to these transportation projects. The various highway districts have presented a wish list that came into my office the other day, a wish list of with $23 million worth of projects across the state. And so that is an example of the wish list that may conflict with grocery tax relief. But it's all a matter of us as state leaders truly prioritizing what our needs are, because we are such a fast-growing state, a lot of people moving into Idaho. There's a lot of demands being placed on our schools, a lot of demand being placed on our roads. The caseload in Medicaid before expansion is a real growing part of our budget. So it really is a matter of prioritizing our needs as a state, and then just remaining prudent as we continue down this road and protecting our diverse economic community so that we maintain a strong economy through these growing times. But I also will say that because we are a growing economy, and what people don't know, what the correlation of there is that we have the all-time high of gas tax revenues coming into our state. So that's a positive thing. Positive economic growth is always a good thing. So there is more money coming in from the gas tax, sales tax, to help pay for these demands on our roads.
Right, that really comes down to it, and we'll continue on with your phone calls at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We will talk about Medicaid expansion, also the budget, How does the state come up with a $65 million shortfall? And we'll, again, figure out red flag laws as well. A lot going on today. We would love for you to join us with the Lieutenant Governor, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You're listening to 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Let's go to the phones, and Kurt joins us now from Boise. Kurt, good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. A long-time listener, first-time caller. And this question is for the Lieutenant Governor. First, I want to congratulate her for winning as a woman. My wife has worked for the state and also in the private sector over many years here, and I'm hoping the Lieutenant Governor can do something about, I want to congratulate her for breaking through the glass ceiling, but also for maybe we can get some equal pay for equal work for women, and I'd like to take her answer off the air.
All right, fair enough. We do hear a lot about the glass ceiling, and it has been the year of the woman. Your thoughts?
I thank you for your congratulations, and I definitely support the idea of women being paid the same as men for the same category of work, and that's the way our laws are written. So I don't, as a business person, we pay people according to what they do, and it's irrelevant what gender they are.
Indeed. Let's take a look at Medicaid expansion. How do you think that's going to play out?
That's very interesting. As everyone knows, a lawsuit has been filed against the voter initiative, and it will be heard at the Supreme Court this month, January 29th, which is a little over 10 days from today. And as my understanding, they've sold out on their. People can go listen, but they have to have a ticket to go into the Supreme Court and listen to the proceedings, and they've sold out. So there's a high interest in what's going to happen there. And it's just my sense that there's not much going on yet in the legislature, because I think people are kind of holding off to see what happens there at the Supreme Court level. I do believe that the Department of Health and Welfare is moving forward with what they need to do to apply for this from the federal government, and I intend to go meet with the new director of the Health and Welfare Department next week. I met him the other day, and I intend to go meet with him and try to find out what I can about what they're doing. Excuse me, what they're doing to try to move forward there. But depending on what the Supreme Court determines, then it will fall to the legislature to deal with that. Either way, if the Supreme Court upholds the law, the legislature will need to figure out how to make that work. And that was one thing that was not addressed in the voter initiative, was how to pay for this. And there will be a state cost. There's a 10% match rate. So there's some difficult decisions that lie ahead for the members of the legislature, and I stand ready to assist with them in their deliberations if I'm asked, and with the experience I've had on the Health and Welfare Committee and chairing that committee, I hope that I can help play a role in helping to determine how this is going to work for our state.
It all comes down to how you pay for it. Traffic and weather together. And Lieutenant Governor Janice McGeachin with us. Did you want to expand on that, what the courts
Sure.
may or may not do, and how that impacts our budget?
Absolutely. Well, as I mentioned earlier, we have in our state budget today, we're growing. State government growth is over 5%, which is higher than what the economy is growing. Our income is growing at about 4%. The state budget is growing at over 5%. That's a maintenance budget. That's where we do absolutely nothing new. No more money for roads, no more money for schools, no more money for Medicaid. Right now, we are at an unsustainable path within our state budget, and that is before the expansion of Medicaid, which when the Medicaid program, the way it works with the federal government, it's a partnership. If you sign on to this, then you're opening up your program to anyone who meets the qualifications. there are no restrictions on that unless the state applies for some form of a waiver from those requirements from the federal government. And so if that's my concern, that if this is implemented as approved by the voters with no constraints, it will be a fiscal train wreck for our state, and I am concerned about that. And that's why I say the legislature has some very tough questions and decisions to be made.
One more final call. We go to Bill in Meridian on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Bill.
Hi. I just heard Lieutenant Governor tell us that Brad Little gave her the job of kind of cutting back waste in the state. I heard that earlier when she was talking. And I used to work for the state of Idaho. Are you still there?
Yes. Yep.
Great.
I'm here, Bill. Thank you.
And I noticed that there were two major departments that took a lot of our money. One of them was health and welfare. It seemed like there were a lot of paper pushers, of course, but I felt like things were kind of upside down in the way that we treated people that were on welfare. Oh, let's see, you make an extra $1, we're going to take that away. Why don't we, change it a little bit if possible and say, if you get a job, we'll give you a bonus. You keep that job, we'll give you another bonus. Encourage people to get off of welfare instead of staying on it. And then penalizing people who try and better themselves. And I don't know if you can change that or not, but it's a great idea, and you might be in a better place to change that idea than I would ever be. The other thing I wanted to tell you was that another department that was really, I felt like one piece of paper pushing another, was the Department of Education. There were places where I worked where there was 122 people in a department that were writing grants for the federal government. And I thought, isn't that a little bit extreme? And then I felt that was a little bit of a waste because they use so much square footage for the state and so many people and so many things. And it's like every time we hear education money, we're going to take our money away from the teachers. Well, what about all these people that are above the teachers? I felt like there were way too many chiefs and not enough Indians, and I think you should look into that, being you're looking into waste. And just thought I would throw those in the air and see what you thought, and maybe give you a direction. So there you go.
Well, there you have, Bill. Thank you for the call.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate your comments and your observations in those two areas, and the fact that you were a person that experienced it firsthand working with the state. I think that we can learn a lot from people like you, and that will be part of some of the ideas that we're formulating, and we're going to begin those discussions this afternoon with the governor's office of how do we structure this. And one idea that was thrown out is that we have something like this hotline where people who either citizens or work for the state government can throw in suggestions for improvement. It's all about, that's what we do in business, where we always have to continually reconsider how we're spending the money and whether what we did 20 years ago is relevant and still important to today. The two areas that you discussed under health and welfare, those ideas are good ideas where we begin to incentivize people to become more independent rather than just but the federal government. That's the way the rules are with the federal government. You meet the requirements or you don't meet the requirements, and there's a Medicaid buy-in that actually has to be approved by the legislature to be able to do what you're talking about there. But those are good ideas that the state should have more ability to determine how to run those programs. And then, as you said, in the Department of Education, all these people writing grants for federal dollars, that's another big problem that we have is these federal grants, people look at them as a positive thing, just another source of revenue coming in and what we can spend, but it always comes with a string attached to it.
Well, and we saw that with the campaign for Medicaid expansion. There is nothing known as free. Lieutenant Governor McGinn, we appreciate you. Thank you for joining us. We'd love to have you back. Thank you for making yourself available.
Absolutely. And thank you, Kevin, for inviting me to be here. It was great to be here and listen to your callers.
All right, let's find out what's happening in your world. Good morning, Maggie. And out to Tanya J. Powers, Fox News Radio exclusively on 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
Good morning.
You know, thankfully, you were a little late, and we reciprocated. We were a little late, so we had a little extra time with the Lieutenant Governor, and now we go from her to you.
Wow. Well, that's cool. I'd really hate that I missed that particular segment. I bet it was really good.
Well, as all segments are, right?
That's exactly what I meant. I mean, don't try and back me in a corner.
Sorry, for years, it's just how I show my affection. I apologize. And that's a sincere one, not a disingenuous one. So let's go to why you're here. A judge has ruled that the feds can't force you to unlock your iPhone with your finger or your face.
Yeah, this is a really interesting case out of California because this magistrate judge has ruled that the biometrics, which is a lot of people have this on their their phones, their iPhones, especially the fingerprint, where it unlocks your phone for you, or the facial recognition, or even an iris recognition. So the whole thing stems from this search warrant that the police wanted to serve in a case in Oakland, California, and it had to do with the Facebook. There was a crime where they had said, we've got video of you. We're going to release it on social media and put it out to the public. It was an extortion scam. It was run on Facebook, like through Messenger and that kind of thing. And so the cops decided, we think we know who's behind this. We want to serve a search warrant to find out. And in doing so, they wanted permission to basically force unlock any device they found during the search of this property. They wanted to be able to open up any device, no matter whose phone it was, if they had anything to do with this crime or anything like that. Anything they found, they wanted to be able to unlock it. And this judge said, well, first of all, it's pretty broad. You haven't specified any people. You haven't specified any particular devices. And second of all, you can't do that because it's already not legal for you to force unlock somebody's phone with a passcode. You can't force a suspect to unlock their phone with a passcode. And they said, the judge said, well, since this would basically be doing the same thing, it's just with biometrics, it falls under the same, Fifth Amendment. You don't have to be forced to incriminate yourself. And that's the reason that, this was sort of I won't call it a loophole, but it's something that had not been ruled on up until this point. But now it's kind of, closed that. They're looking at this as possibly a landmark court decision.
Indeed. Tanya J. Powers joining us now. You have an iPhone, an Android?
iPhone.
Do you have the face thing, or?
No, I don't have the new fancy one with the face thing.
Right.
Mine has the fingerprint.
Right. Oh, the face. Wow, that's a new one.
Well, it's not that new.
What does that say about people? So let's see, before we let you go, your iPhone, which is it?
I have a 7 and a 6 Plus, maybe.
Wow, you have two.
Yes, but
wow.
That's a lot of people have two.
You have a burner.
Don't try and shame me for my phones now.
You have a burner phone.
No, one is a work phone, one is a personal phone.
Sure. No, I just have a 6 Plus, and it's funny when you go to the store and they go, well, this thing doesn't work. No, I don't need to be upsold. It's called paid off, and I'll take that, sir.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because a lot of us just we just wanted a cell phone first of all, and then it kind of grew and grew and grew, and now it's sort of going back the other way. My 17-year-old last night was looking at new phone plans, and she said, "I just want one that makes calls and texts. I don't need all this other stuff." And I was thinking, wow, we've come full circle now. If the teenagers are starting to go, yeah, I just want to make calls.
Right. We're getting rid of text. We're going back to just making calls. Final thought, though, it's with the new iPhones, you don't have a headphone adapter. And if you're like me, I use mine for audio and such. So, but thankfully, Apple has will allow you to buy an adapter to put on your iPhone so you can put a microphone on it. And they should have just kept the headphone jack. Yes,
you're exactly right. They have that's one of the things that actually I use when I'm reporting is it's called an iRig, and anybody can to get one, but it does have an external mic on it. But yeah, there's all kinds of bells and whistles to get around the headphone jack being where the power cord goes. It's just kind of one of those things you have to remember. It's kind of an extra step.
Wow, iRig, fancy.
It's not fancy.
Fancy enough for us. So I guess we'll leave it on that. Boy, iRig. What will they think of next?
Ray and Maya, you can help him Google that later.
Thank you.
Anytime.
There we have it. Tanya J. Powers joining us. Pro-Life joins us now on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Pro-Life.
Yeah. I was hoping I could ask a question of Janice, but she got away with it.
I'm sorry. We just, in the old days, we would have one or two calls for the entire 4 hours that we were on, and just people keep calling in, Pro-Life.
That's good. But anyway, I was going to ask her, there's a doctor up in Moscow that does transgender surgeries. I think that should be illegal. And
now, wait a minute. You're back on that again. Do you remember during the entire primary process?
Right.
Instead of, and look, we don't tell you how to do your job. Of course, people tell me how to do mine, and that's good. I need to take some direction anyway. But you would ask everybody that basic question. I can remember the look on Mike Simpson's face when you asked him that one.
I know it was probably good. I mean, I'd like to see the look.
I don't know about that. I mean, we're sitting back and you're representing us, and they're going to say, what is it with the transgender thing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's there's a huge amount of regret. I don't know what percentage, but it's over 50%.
Here, let me hit you with this. I don't mean to cut you off, but I want to get your reaction to what happened yesterday at the State House.
Today, hundreds walked around the Capitol Rotunda at the State House with signs they say included examples of discrimination against LGBTQ Idahoans. For years, Add the Word supporters have been pushing for the words sexual orientation and gender identity to be added into the Idaho Human Rights Act. The law bans discrimination on race, sex, color, religion, and national origin in housing, employment, and public accommodations. The advocacy group says they are hopeful 2019 will be the year the words will be added.
The words are coming for you.
This has just taken too long. I am a native Idahoan. I am a fifth-generation Idahoan, and we really need to let all of our people have access to the lives that they need to live. It's time, Idaho.
Last September, Meridian City Council approved an ordinance barring discrimination based on sexual orientation or gender identity. Meridian is now the 14th Idaho city to add the words to its city ordinance.
The words are coming for you.
Well, that's pretty sad.
What do you make of that? The words, they're looking for you, Pro-Life.
The words are probably on a collision course with me, because I say that nobody has the right to be a sexual pervert, and it should be against the law. And so 14 cities, that's pretty sad.
What does that say? What does that say that you may be out of whack in Meridian? First you can't smoke in Meridian, now all of a sudden you got to do this. What do you make of that?
I'm out of whack in 14 cities in Idaho. I'm not congruent. I'm not, maybe I'm illegal in 14 cities of Idaho, because I say that sexual perversion should be against the law. It shouldn't be.
Here's another one. Remember, you were worried about the gay police getting you. Remember, the gay police have to protect you when they have the march.
Yeah, because I'm one of the few people that go down there and tell them they're wrong.
And your life has been threatened by them. Is that correct?
No.
Well, why do you need the gay police then to protect you if your life hasn't been threatened?
My life wasn't threatened. Just my bodily. They might have harmed.
They said they were going to beat you up.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't want to kill me, I don't think.
They said they were physically going to harm you.
Yeah, they wanted to. There was one guy that really wanted to take a swing at us.
Now, would that be like the gay mafia or the gay criminals or just the gays? And then you said you had the gay police there. Can you explain that?
Yeah, well, see, when you go down to the Capitol and the gays are having some kind of a rally down there.
Like the rainbows and the unicorns and it's raining men, yes.
Yeah, and so if you go down there with a sign, I held a sign that said, "Be thankful your mother was not gay." Now that's quite a good sign. But anyway, and it's
I bet you get, what kind of a reaction do you get with that?
Well, one time I was holding a sign like that in a gay parade, and a lesbian girl jumped off of her float and came over and gave me a hug. I guess because she she was pro-life and she loved her mother. But anyway, and then another woman said, listen, my mother had 5 children and then she went gay. And
Wait a minute, you're saying the mother had 5 children and then she was gay?
Then she went gay.
How does that work?
He turned homosexual, and that's really sad. I don't know. People are so mixed up, but I just, we can't add the words in Idaho, because that shows that we're just run-of-the-mill, buy anything that the world is throwing out there.
What would you say to the folks in Meridian, then?
They like UN morals. That's the morality of the United Nations, of the European Union, of the... That's the morals of the devil. You don't want to have that kind of stuff. That's ridiculous.
So Idaho doesn't need the words, is what you're saying?
No, they definitely don't.
All right, Pro-Life, thank you for the call. More of your calls next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And we go to the phones. Liberal Steve joins us now on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
Back with my hands at 10 and 2. Republicans, all I need is just enough money to get an Uber and a lunch so I can go back to work with no pay. 107.5 is now live. Miller in the morning. Well, Miller, I got to say one thing. Full Life proves it every time he comes on that he is Lucifer reincarnated without the wings. No doubt about it. And Janice McKee, who, we know she's not LDS because she owns a pub. The pub wants you to refrain from booze, so no way would she have a bar. And what else are we talking about today? Pelosi, Pepsi Pelosi, stopping Donnie Trumpy from talking? Yay! She has that right. You know, they weren't even having that on TV until LBJ started it, and then they did it every time after that. So we don't need to see flappy, orange-haired head Trump talking about stuff he knows nothing about. And that's all
A lot of people would say that about you.
Who's a lot of people? Name one, Miller. Name one. Give me one name. You always say that without. It's like my mom saying, there's a lot of people starving in China, and I say, name one, Mom.
Terry from State College, Pennsylvania.
Terry? Terry says what?
Well, Terry's tired of hearing from you. Tea Party Bob, other folks.
Terry and Tea Party Bob. There was a gentleman in my car the other day riding with me into Ontario to check out our stores, and when he heard Terry say, like, a part in the wind, and then Max, and then Tea Party Bob, he says, what is that? Has he got the Viagra crew calling?
Now, you did ask for names, and I've given you several.
Yeah, but they're nobodies. There's a Viagra crew. Give me somebody like Janice or no, Brad Little's part of that Viagra crew. Give me somebody young.
What's wrong? What's wrong with Viagra?
What's Ray Amaya say?
What's wrong with Viagra?
The only reason men need Viagra is because they didn't marry a woman that turns them on. That's it. Or they're tired of that woman. You know, erectile dysfunction. That's a joke. That's between the ears.
Now, careful. This is a family show.
Well, you're the one that brought it up. You're the one that asked the question.
No, I just said Viagra is a prescription medication.
You said what's wrong?
Traffic and weather together, KIDO Talk Radio. And coming up next, new taxes, Medicare, free tuition for all. The libs are just getting started in Congress. We'll talk about that. And do you believe that Nancy Pelosi should be able to tell the president, no State of the Union for you or America? Love to get your reaction next. Good morning.